Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is 17 o'clock and it's time for class. So we'll just give 5 more minutes for us to join in and then we kick start. Our facilitator is already in class this evening. So please, party chairpersons, party members, inform your members that it's time for class. So we should join in before 17:05. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone,
Hi,
and
everyone. Good
welcome to class.
afternoon.
Welcome. So
I
this
hope
is
you're having
17 of
a
like,
good like am I mute? Okay. Hope you're having a good Sunday.
yes,
Oh, good. Awesome.
welcome.
Yeah.
So I'll just read a bio of our facilitator for the class this evening. Amina Miango. Amina Miango is a Nigerian trained lawyer, researcher, and trainer with over 9 years' experience working in election management and administration. Her research cuts across the electoral process, election legal framework, electoral dispute resolution, human rights, and compliance. She is passionate about free, fair, and credible elections and believes a sound knowledge of electoral practices by citizens is the first step towards achieving that. She is a strong believer in the rule of law as a tool of justice and equality. So, ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for this evening, Amina Miango, taking us on the collation of election results. Welcome. It's so great to have you here.
So good to see you again, Charlie. I hope you're doing well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hello, guys. Hope you're doing well. How have your what do you call it? How have your classes been so far? Hope you're enjoying it. Sorry for we dragging you here on a Sunday when you should be resting. Actually took a nap myself because I was so tired. I'm sure a lot of you are like me that Sundays usually our rest day. So hope you're good. Okay, so without wasting much time, I don't know if you can reach any, I don't know how many you guys are in your class. So if you can reach out to your classmates and just tell them to join us without wasting much time. Will you prefer if I did without video or you like to see my face? Even though my face looks tired. Would you like to see my face? Let me see what you say in the chat box. Oh, okay. Someone says yes, please. Abraham says he wants to see my face. Okay, let me show my face. So, hi everyone. Sorry, ignore my background. Hope you're well. So, we're talking about collation of results today, and I know you've encountered all the arms of government. I think you did elections a few days ago. So was it last week? So now you're doing collation of results. And I won't just jump in and start talking about collation because it's a pretty restrictive topic. It's not much, but it's also very important. So um before collation of results, let's look at what um elections are generally, yeah. What election entails. Let me put this into like a slideshow. I think it will be better. Aha, good. This is better. So elections is um is a one-day event, yeah. But the electoral process is a whole thing, yeah. A cycle of different activities, different events, which cuts across from reforms, electoral reforms, to campaigns, and then to voting, and then to registration of political parties, to registration of voters. So it's a whole thing with different activities that happen at different times. Yeah. So if you look back, if you remember, Nigerian elections is a 4-year cycle. We do elections every 4 years. That's what our law provides. And within that 4 years, INEC doesn't just do 2023 election, for example, and then disappears again and doesn't do anything for another 4 years. if you are someone who follows the electoral cycle, the elections very well, you know that immediately INEC finished the 2023 election, sorry, there has been conversations about electoral reforms. And that is where we are now. There's a conversation, okay, how do we need to change the Electoral Act? We need to amend some parts of it. Oh, okay, do we need a new body to handle some things because INEC is overwhelmed? Okay, do we think the way INEC is constituted is fine? All this happen within a thing called the electoral cycle. So basically, when you find the electoral cycle, which is divided into the post-election, the pre-election, and the electoral period. Under the pre-election, okay, let's start with post. Under the post-election, where we are now, you have things like you review the election that has happened, yeah. Then you do your legal and institutional reforms. You update your voter register. You clean up. You reform your election management body, i.e., INEC. You um, and then you do all that within the post-election period. So that's the phase we are in now. We had elections last year, and then after the elections and all, then we started all this review, reform, strategize, clean up, do this, do that, do that. So from this phase now, sometime maybe in the next election we have will be 2027, yes? So sometime around 2025 to 2026, towards 2025, 2026, let's say 2026, you start talking about, oh, okay, register political parties. I know that one. Now, the thing about this cycle is that some of the activities overlap. Because at this moment, I'm sure there are people that are saying, oh, let's register new political parties, yeah? So they will be at it, yeah. And then voter and civic education is not something that you should leave towards till election time. That's my argument. Anyway, I've always said that voter and civic education should be something that you do continuously, so that by the time it's time to vote, people will not you won't there's so much information out there. You don't just give the people all the things at once. So voter and civic education, all those things. INEC will decide to recruit their staff and all those things. So in most instances, you find that activities under the post-election and pre-election, they interchange and they overlap each other, because electoral reforms can continue up until election day. That's the truth. Yeah. So when you talk of reforms, when you talk about all those things, yeah. So basically, then you have the electoral period. And this period is usually when you have nomination of candidates, you have campaigns, you have political party primaries, you have the election itself. That's election day itself, which entails voting and all that. And collation also falls under this beautiful electoral period. So when you are talking about elections in general, why election is a one day, it's election goes beyond voting. Let me put it that way. It goes beyond voting. It encompasses a lot of things. And that's why when you're talking about elections, you use a cycle to describe it. And it's called the electoral cycle. So, like I said here, election is not a one day activity. It's an event made up of different activities. And I've already said that, at least I've explained it, and made up of the pre-electoral, the electoral, and the post-electoral cycle. And like I said, some of the activities on one part of the cycle can spill over to the other part of the cycle. So, collation. I don't talk about collation yet. Let's learn other things, yeah? And one of the things I want us to learn is about result management. And results, election, the whole thing about election is about, election results. Without, I mean, nobody wants to know anything about election if the whole election ends in, okay, who won? who lost? Do you need to redo the election? So the election result is like what encompasses elections, yeah? Yeah. So when you're talking about election results management, it means that results must be managed in such a way as to fulfill demands for a more effective system, e.g., speed, transparency, and accuracy. So when you're talking about election results, how fast are results? How fast do results come out after voting on election day? How transparent is the process where that result was collated, and how accurate are the results? If you put your mind back to you know to the 2023 elections, the election result management system was one of the major problems, yeah, that we had. So we'll come back to this when we start talking about collation and proper. And then okay, let's skip to electoral integrity. What's electoral integrity? I'm just trying to, talk about some words that you meet when you're talking about collation, when you're talking about election in general. Like you hear that this election wasn't credible. This election lacked integrity. So what is electoral integrity? Basically, an electoral process where there is universal suffrage and political equality, and also where the election management body was an election management body. What's an example of an election management body? Anyone? Anyone? Let's see. Is anybody raising their hands? Is anybody raising their hands to answer my question? What's the example of an election management body? Or if you want, if you like, you can just type it in. Let's see. Okay, yeah. EMB is INEC, yes. But INEC is not the only EMB. You know that, right? There are like 36 others, 36 other EMBs in Nigeria. So, um, basically, sorry. So how professional is the EMB in doing its job? How impartial and transparent is preparation for elections? Yeah, and why is electoral integrity important? It is because every aspect of elections could face credibility issues, and where citizens and opposition cannot trust that the system is lacks in that the system is not with integrity, then we'll have a problem. So for example, you in the last election, again, I'll keep using the example of the last election. One of the things that happened was that the elections faced a lot of credibility issues because people were opposition, citizens, they didn't trust that INEC will do its job. It doesn't mean that INEC didn't do its job or did it with integrity. It just showed that even at that, people didn't trust that INEC had the credibility to do its job. And because of that, when you talk about the 2023 elections, there are lot of mixed feelings about it. Oh, were elections free and fair? We don't know. Some people will tell you yes, and some people will tell you no, INEC messed up. In fact, every time you go on Twitter, you'll find that kind of conversation going on. Last week, I saw that there was going to be a ceremony to curse the INEC chairman or something like that. So, these are some of the issues. So when the electoral process has integrity issues, you have all kinds of issues coming up, and where voters and other stakeholders see the electoral process as being administered by a partisan group or being manipulated for partisan purposes, the result can be non-participation or rejection of the electoral results. Despite the frenzy of of registering to vote before the 2023 elections, the turnout was so poor. I mean, less than 20% of voters. We have about 93 million voters, registered voters. We had less than about 10 or thereabout percent coming out to vote. And that's unacceptable. So these are some of the issues where there is credibility issues. People will be like, why should I come out to to vote? There is no need for me to vote because they will give who they want to give. So these are some of the things that we need to start working on. Yeah, as in our private spaces. How can we make our elections more credible? Do we need to change the people that conduct elections? Do we need to change the whole electoral process? Do we need to get our laws right? What do we need to do to make elections more credible? So these are some of the questions that we need to start asking ourselves, because going forward, as we go towards 2027, we need more people to participate in elections. It's not enough that less than 10 million people, will choose who the president of this country is unacceptable. We need more people to participate, to come out to vote. It is not enough to register to vote. It was obvious in the last election. I mean, we have 93 people on our register, and how many came out to vote? So it is not acceptable that you know that you just register and then you sit back at home. We need to do better, at least for electoral process. And when we don't participate, it's actually easier to manipulate things when people don't participate. When you sit back at home and maybe in a polling unit of 500 people and only 30 come out to vote, I mean, it's easier to manipulate. But when there are 400, 300 people there are like, okay, we are coming out to vote. How do you even manipulate in that kind of instance? So we need to do better as citizens. We need to do better as a country. So I've been talking about a whole lot of things. And all these things that I've talked about are guided by laws. Election is a legal is a legal activity. Even the political scientists will not agree. They say, no, how can you say it's a legal activity? Well, you can't do elections without the laws guiding it. If our constitution says no elections for infinity, we won't be able to do elections. So the whole foundation of democracy itself is the law, yeah, what the law is, what the law says about how we change our leaders, what the law says about governance, and all that. So to understand this, I'm going to talk about the election legal framework. And what is the election legal framework? It's basically the body of rules and laws that guide the conduct of elections. And I outlined three, even though they are not limited to these three because there are a lot more. But for the purpose of this class, we're looking at three. Nigeria is signatory to a lot of um, international instruments and covenants. So we will also talk about political rights, civil rights, and all that. So of course, all of that will come into play when it comes to things like the right to vote, the freedom to contest for elections, the freedom of association, and all that. But most of these rights have also been reproduced in our constitution. So that's why I didn't bother, you know, mentioning those instruments like the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. That's one of the instruments that we are signatories to, which provides for a whole gamut of political and civil rights. So the Constitution is like the most important law in Nigeria. Let me put it that way. Because it's from the constitution that every other law in Nigeria gets its powers, its power to exist, its validity. Let's put it that way. Yeah, its validity. So where the constitution says this law, um, this law and it's not collaborating with what the constitution says, the law is void for the intent of that part. So the constitution is also the law that sets up our government. It is where you find the three arms of government. It is where you will find political parties. Yeah, that we can have political parties. It is where you find the freedom of association. It is where you will find the creation of INEC as a body to conduct elections. You will also find the creation of the State Independent Electoral Commission. Yeah, it is also where you find appointment of members of INEC and then the resident electoral commissioners and all that. So the constitution basically provides for all of this. It sets up INEC, it sets up a whole lot of other bodies. It sets up the military, it sets up the police. It sets up that INEC has the powers to do this. INEC has the power to register, to conduct elections, conduct referendums, and all that. That is the Constitution. It sets up all these things. Then we have the Electoral Act, which is a product of the Constitution. And this is what I mean. You remember I said that the Constitution sets up all the arms of government. It also gives them the powers to do some certain things. So in the Constitution says the National Assembly can create laws for a particular purpose or for different purposes. And one of the purposes is for elections, yeah? So flowing from that power granted to the National Assembly to create laws for certain activities, they decided, okay, let's create the Electoral Act so that we can break down the powers that the Constitution grants to INEC, the activities that the Constitution says INEC should do. So where the Constitution says we set up a body called the Independent National Electoral Commission, which shall have the power to conduct elections, register political parties, conduct referendums, and all that. Yeah. The Electoral Act now goes further. In conducting elections, it will say this is how elections should be conducted. In registering political parties, it gives the process for registering political parties. And that is the work of the Electoral Act. It basically breaks down everything the Constitution says about elections, the powers of INEC, political parties, and all of that. Then the way the Electoral Act is, as concise as it is, breaking down everything, it doesn't still break it down to the point of implementation, because the Electoral Act, for example, will say INEC can use any method they feel like for voting and transmission of results. That's not very clear. Yeah? Any method can be anything. So INEC also in the Constitution is granted powers to make regulations in the conduct of its activities. So it has so many regulations on how to, register political parties, regulations on inclusion and diversity, regulation on this, regulation on nomination of candidates, all that. This is flowing from the powers that the Constitution says INEC can have the power to make regulations. So it's from these powers that INEC decided, okay, let's create a regulation and guideline for the conduct of elections. Let's do it so that it will break down all those processes that the Constitution and the Electoral Act says we can do. So under the regulation, while the Electoral Act says, oh, INEC has the power to use any method they feel like, for voting and and collation and transmission of results. The INEC regulation says this is the method we're going to use for voting. This is how we'll transmit results from one place to the other. So that is the work of these three documents. One, it gives a general definition, but two of them, the Electoral Act and the INEC regulations, get the power to exist because the Constitution says they can exist. So at any time, if the Electoral Act or the INEC regulations says anything that the Constitution did not send them to say, it will be null and void. There was a time that the registration of political parties was not provided for in the Constitution. It was strictly something that was in the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act said INEC had the powers to deregister political parties. But the Constitution said everybody has the freedom to associate. Yeah. So INEC decided, okay, let's deregister all these too many political parties. We have too many. So they deregistered a bunch of political parties. And the parties approached the courts and said, okay, INEC said we can no longer exist, but we have the power, we have the freedom to associate under the Constitution. And because the Constitution was silent on the registration, they were registered back. The court said INEC has no such powers, that power itself infringes on the freedom of association. And because it infringes on the freedom of association, which is a constitutional right, INEC cannot deregister. So what did the legislators do? They went back to the Constitution and they amended it. They amended it to include, they lifted that Electoral Act provision on the registration of political parties. They just reproduced it in the Constitution and they amended the Constitution. And because of that, in 2020, yes, I think, was it 2020 or 2021? I think 2021, I can't quite remember. Sometime around February, INEC deregistered 74 political parties. And they did it confidently because this time around, they had the powers to do so because the Constitution says, yeah, there's a freedom of association, but subject to, the other part of the Constitution. So when they dragged INEC to court again, this time around, INEC could stand tall and say, oh, okay, yeah, we deregistered them because we can. If they don't, the Constitution had given some parameters where if the parties do not achieve, they can be deregistered. So INEC said, well, this party did not get this party did not get that. So with their full chest, they deregistered 74 parties. And that was how. So basically, whatever the Electoral Act says must be what the Constitution had said. And whatever the INEC regulation says is it must be what the Constitution and the Electoral Act grants it the power to say. Let me there's another example that was hovering around my head and I have forgotten. This is what happens when you are getting old. So let's let's continue. If I remember, I'll get back to that. So let's enter our collation proper. What is collation of results? Honestly, collation of results is probably the easiest thing you can know. Yeah. Especially for people that have done elections. It's like the easiest thing that exists during election. It's like straightforward. Okay, we are compiling results. Add. And we are done. That's what collation of results is. But as simple as it is, it can be very problematic. And it is capable of turning an election upside down. That's how crazy it is. That is why it is so important that you understand the process, that you understand what the law says. excuse me, then you understand what the law says about collation. So, what is collation and results? Collation is the tabulation or summation of votes cast at an election. Like I said, collation is an important aspect of election day administration, if not the most important. To me, oh, apart from people coming out to vote, what happens to that result is the most important. Like I said earlier on, election results are it, yeah. It's why everybody comes out to vote. That's why we all come out. Oh, we're going to vote because we want to know who has the highest votes. So if we do not manage that process, the process of getting the total of those results, if we don't manage it properly, what do you think will happen to the whole election? Put your mind back again to 2023 presidential election. Remember IREF? Remember all those things? Remember all the drama? We are still living in the drama. I mean, you can't talk about prices of food without saying, okay, no people now go vote rubbish. Or you can't talk about the price of this, or this is what they stole election for, you know. So this, it all goes back to not voting, but election collation of results. So where collation is not done transparently and accurately, the credibility of the process will be questioned, leading to the rejection of the results by stakeholders. Are we living in that kind of era or are we not? I'm sure you say we are. I'm not even reading. Ah, these people's chats, this is so dry. People are not banting. Nobody is even saying anything in the chat box. Serious students. Okay. So, the levels of collation. What are the levels of collation? It depends on the type of election in question. Remember, we said that there are 37 election management bodies earlier on, and INEC is just one of them. Yeah. And for all intents, for the purpose of this class, we're talking about the INEC's process because the rest are basically the same. They're basically the same. INEC uh, conducts the most diverse set of elections in Nigeria because you have the presidential elections, the governorship elections, National Assembly elections, State House of Assembly elections, and then we have the FCT area councils elections. So INEC conducts the most diverse set of elections in Nigeria. You have the other 36 um, election management bodies conducting only local government elections. So the processes are basically the same when it comes to collation of results. Yeah, just that in most instances, when you see state independent electoral commission, they mostly use ward instead of registration area. INEC is the one that likes using registration area instead of ward a lot. So, you know, so let's talk about the levels of collation. Depending on the type of election, yeah, the process is the levels on my screen are what you see in a typical election. So let's look at area councils election. Like I said earlier on, INEC is the one that conducts FCT area councils election, and it's basically election into office of chairman of the 6 area councils or councillors of the various registration area or what. So where it is election into a registration area, that's for councillor, collation is basically on one level, yeah? So you take results from the polling units to the registration area collation center. You collate it, and then you announce the winner and you declare and return who won. Very straightforward. You don't have to go through many levels. There are no levels to that. It's just one level. For local government area, for chairman of area councils or chairman of, you know, um, the local governments in, you know, if it's state, you have, you take the results from the polling units, yeah, and then you take it to the registration area collation center when you where you collate results from all polling units into one. And because it is for chairman, it doesn't stay there. You move the result to the local government area collation center where you do collation for local government area. So at the local government area, you are collating results from all the registration areas into one. When you are done collating, you have results for party A, party B, party C, party D. So the person with the highest number of votes is declared the winner and is returned elected as chairman. Very simple, yeah, straightforward. For State House of Assembly, um, some constituencies are made up of one local government, some constituencies are made up of two local governments, yeah. So for constituencies that are one local government, most times after a local government collation, if it's a State House of Assembly election, you just move to the state, you just declare there and end it. But where the constituency is made up of, for State House of Assembly, for federal, for House of Representatives, I don't know why I put, okay, I put federal constituency, not Federal House of Representatives. I hate when people say Federal House of Representatives. It annoys me. So I thought that was the same thing I did here. And there's a bracket, so it's not the same thing I did. I hate when people say Federal House of Representatives. There's only one House of Representatives, so why are you adding federal in front of it? Anyway, let's continue. So for State House of Assembly elections, House of Representatives, and senatorial, the processes are basically the same, but depending, because of State House of Assembly, House of Reps, you know, Senate have different composition of local governments, yeah. So in a situation whereby it is only one local government, in case of a State House of Assembly that has only one local government, collation will end at the LGA level. You just collate, then the State Assembly collation officer will now impute into his own results sheets and then just declare. But where it is House of Representatives, I don't think there's any House of Reps that has just one local government as constituency. I don't think so. I've never seen. So where it is House of Reps, you collect from all the local government that make up that federal constituency. When you collate it, after when it leaves the okay, let's start afresh. When for House of Representatives, when it leaves the polling unit, you take the result. Don't forget, all this thing is manual. It is carrying results by the result sheets and carrying it like that from one stage to the other. Forget what the law says. The law says INEC can use any method of collation that it deems fit. At this time, INEC is still doing manual collation. They're still carrying results. So don't forget that. Anyway, so you carry the result for House of Representatives election. After the election, you carry the result from the polling unit to the registration area. All the results from the polling units gets all the registration areas. They are collated. Then you carry the results from the different registration areas to the local government collation, where all the results under that local government are collated. Then, because it is House of Reps, you carry all the results from the local governments making up that federal constituency to the Federal Constituency Collation Center. At that point, all the results from all the local governments making up the federal constituency are collated there. So if it is APC that had the highest votes, you declare the candidate elected and you return them. If it is PDP that had the highest votes, you do the same. So that is how the level of collation for House of Representatives. It is the same thing also for senatorial. From the local government, you just move to the senatorial district level made up of all the local governments that form that senatorial level. You collate and you return and declare the winner. Now, for governorship elections, it's straightforward too. Yeah. because from the polling unit, you carry the governorship results for that polling unit to the registration area. When it gets to the registration area, where you've collated all the polling unit results, you move it to the local government area, where you collect all the results for governorship elections coming from the registration areas. Now, because it is governorship elections, you don't need to go to any constituency level at all. No. From the local government area itself, you move directly to the state where all the results for the governorship elections from each local government will be collated, and then the winner will be declared and returned. If it is for presidential elections, you have one more step to go. From the state level, you go to the national collation, where all the state results are collated. I'm sure you've seen that process so many times over the last how many years. I'm sure there's none of you that is below 18. Is there anyone that is below 18 in this class? I don't even think. Is there anyone below 18? I don't think so. So, and if you've not seen, then you are wrong. If you've not seen, go to YouTube. There are a lot of videos on National Collation Center for the last election. If you are not seen, I want to question. Anyway, that's why you're in a polytracy class. So maybe you want to see for the next election. But yes, you are wrong still. So yeah, that's for the for the presidential election. Collation will end at the National Collation Center, where all results for presidential election from the states are brought there and collated. You know, the beauty about result collation, yeah, is that this thing starts from the basic, from the polling unit level, which is like the smallest, most direct, place. Voters have finished voting, and then you take their results, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. It's a wonder. And the sad thing also is that when there is usually a problem, it's somewhere along one of those levels that problem may come up. So it's beautiful, and at the same time it's sad that collation can mess up a whole thing. But when it is done properly, oh my God, it's really amazing, because from the beginning, you know how the elections, will go. So I added here that during collation, a presiding officer, not officers, or collation officer, um, will request that party agents present countersign the election results, and after that, will be issued a duplicate of the election results. So for those of you that have done election work or have been there when after every election, you ask the party agents to sign. And then when they do, you give them a duplicate of the results. And this is because it will help them if they decide they want to pursue, litigation going forward. Yeah. So but where the political party agents refuse to countersign, it doesn't invalidate the result at all. So for 2023 elections, we kept hearing some words, beavers, IREV, and all that. And I'm sure these are pretty straightforward. I'm sure some of you can give a whole lecture on what IREV is and what beavers is. Yeah. So CSRBS, on the other hand, is not something that a lot of people are familiar with, but it's a process where INEC uses technology to check the validity of verify election results, basically. So while remember I said that election results are carried manually, yeah, from one place to the other. While those results during collations, when you move the results from one place to the other, and you are calling out the results for the collation officer to record the numbers, there's usually an INEC staff with a computer spreadsheet who also records your numbers and makes sure that human error. Forget that these collation officers, some of them are professors. So Hey, you've not seen where 5 plus 5 will be a problem because of the pressure they are under. So INEC understands this because that's why you see sometimes you see a lot of cancellation in election results. It is not because sometimes, yeah, sometimes there's ulterior motives in those cancellations. But a lot of times, honestly, it is because the person does not know maths like me. Yeah, they have calculators, but because of all the pressure, have you tried to calculate when people are surrounding you and telling you, oh, okay, hurry up. Okay, what are you doing? You just turn like this. Okay, why are you looking at that side? You turn like, okay, why are you looking at that side? So it's usually very frustrating, yeah. So because of that, IDEC decided, okay, let's do collation support. So this will basically sit down with systems, and as they are calling out the numbers, they're imputing it. And I mean, computers cannot be wrong. So if you put 5 plus 5, you know it is 10 that your computer will tell you. Especially for those of us that know Excel sheets very well. So yeah, that's basically what collation support does during elections. It basically is there to provide support to the collation officer and to verify the results that they are bringing. Yeah, so that's one of the elections. So it wasn't in 2023 that it started. It started way back, but it was well used in the 2023 elections. So what are the challenges of faced during collation? There are quite a number of challenges, yeah. When we take into consideration that this process is largely manual. And because it is largely manual, of course, there will be challenges with the personnel doing it. Like I said earlier on, intervention from political parties, the human error itself, yeah. And then you also have persons that are not very well trained also doing all of this. And of course it will pose problems in the process. And then you have election malpractice. It's not everybody that goes to elections that wants free, fair, and credible elections. Some people just want to collect their money and go. Some people just want to win elections by whatever way. So they will do anything, they will give anything to make sure it happens. And that could definitely be a challenge. Interference by stakeholders goes hand in hand with election malpractice. Politicians, even some civil society, So all this also could be a problem. Then new technologies. I mean, you're sending people to conduct elections, yeah, who don't really understand the technologies that, say, the Beavers machine that, they're going to use to accredit voters. So when it comes to collation, you're asking, how many people did you accredit? And they don't know where to access the accreditation numbers, yeah. So you can compare with the manual result sheets that they brought. So this could also be a problem too. And then you have oversight functions of INEC. Elections are conducted into hundreds of thousands of polling units, thousands of registration areas. You have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of election officials, polling officials alone, not to talk of the collation officer. So the oversight functions is not just it's difficult. INEC cannot effectively oversee these people. And INEC is not just overseeing election officials, they're also overseeing what are the security agents doing on election day. But honestly, we need to revisit our elections beyond collation. It's too for the level we are playing at, for the kind of technology, our election technology is still crude. We still don't have, effective election technology. For the for that level of technology we use, we need a lot of oversight function. And because of that, having the number of elections we have in one day is problematic. INEC cannot effectively provide oversight functions. So we need to revisit how our elections are even conducted in the first place to reduce some of this. Unless the only thing that may help us will be if we bring up new reliable technology that we can use. And honestly, mm, I don't think there's any technology that cannot be interfered with by human beings. Have you met Nigerian politicians? Have you? So it's really a problem. I love elections so much because I think it's one of the ultimate signs of you living in a free society. The ability to choose your leaders, the ability to say, okay, I do not want you anymore because the last 4 years you didn't really do what I wanted you to do. It is only through elections that you can do that. But I want a situation whereby citizens can actually exercise those rights without, feeling some kind of way, or, they should be able to exercise it. Nothing should stand in their way, not politicians, not the laws, not the process itself. Yeah, so I think we need to revisit how we do elections. So moving forward, after elections, what next? When a person has been declared winner, what next? What do we do after elections? We issue certificate of return. Sorry, I'm saying we. INEC issues certificate of return um, from their powers under Section 72 of the Electoral Act, which provides that every candidate declared and returned as winner should be issued with a certificate of return within 14 days. Then after that, after election has been declared and a winner has been declared and returned, what next? We have election petitions. These are the only way, they are the only way you can challenge an election result. If you are saying, election was not free and fair, that INEC did not INEC did not um 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 and they did not substantially, use the law, that they did something else. If you are saying that this person that you people said won this election is not even qualified self to win this election in the first place because he has some certificate issues, or he's a criminal, he has been convicted by a court, or some other reasons, or you're saying that, no, this election that I was the one that won, this person didn't get 2,000 votes. I was the one that got 2,500 votes. All of this, you approach an election tribunal. You don't come on Twitter to say, I was the one that won. And then you sit in your house and then keep saying, I was the one that won for 4 years, and whipping up unnecessary, sentiments. You don't go around issuing press statements. I was the one that won, and then you don't do anything. You go to court because that is the only way you can challenge the election results. And you call those specialized courts election petition tribunals. Those tribunals are set up 30 days before elections, and the registry is open 7 days before the elections. For presidential elections, the Court of Appeal is a presidential election tribunal. I'm not even supposed to teach you people this one because this one even passed me. All of you were following Court of Appeal, and some of you were doxing the justices. Please don't do that next time, please. I beg. Eh? I know it's painful that you think that your candidate ought to have won an election. Yeah. But sometimes the process is so much more. Let me give you a personal example. I used to work with INEC up until last year. And for the presidential elections, for the documents that were needed at the tribunal, I don't know. I'm sure some of you followed on Twitter where they were bringing bags and bags and bags and bags and bags of documents from INEC. Just ask yourself this question, devoid of any partisanship, devoid of anything. Just this basic question. How do you think the justices will go through those bags of documents within that period and then give judgment? The justice system is also broken. These judges that sit on tribunals, we lift them from their usual jobs. You know, they are judges in high courts, in Court of Appeal for Presidential Election Tribunal, Court of Appeal justices. You know, you lift them from those things, you bring them here and you give them 180 days to sit and hear elections. And then you give them bags and bags and bags and bags and bags of evidence to go through. You sit them for hours to listen to arguments. And they're like, okay, yeah, you know, we want that alone is an injustice because it is beyond any human power to effectively sit on that. That alone is an injustice. So while we are talking about reforms, we also need to reform how election petitions are heard and how we want to do it. So if it means we set up a court alone that will hear election petitions alone, and that will be their only work, fine. Then we'll know that, okay, within that 1 year, we'll bombard them with all the cases. But no, it's the way it is structured, it's very hard. So for governorship elections, you have the Governorship Election Tribunal, which is set up to hear um elections for governorship petitions for governorship election. Then you have the National Assembly and State House of Assembly elections tribunals also, which is one of the tribunals. So election petitions are to be filed 21 days after the date for declaration of results. The National and State House of Assembly tribunal consists of a chairman and 4 members. For governorship election, it is a chairman and 2 members. All chairmen and members of both tribunals are judges of High Court, Sharia Court, Customary Court, Sharia Court of Appeal, Customary Court of Appeal, and all that. The tribunal shall deliver judgment within 180 days from the date of filing of the petition. Appeals from election tribunals shall be heard within 60 days from the date it is filed. The Court of Appeal is the final court for appeals emanating from the National and State House of Assembly Election Tribunal, while the Supreme Court is the final court for governorship and presidential election tribunals. ADR in election resolution. For me, one of the things we need to look out for is finding what ADR is basically alternative dispute resolution. So we need to find ADR methods that can work within our election petition framework and include them. That is one of the ways to decongest the courts and reduce the rate at which people file election petitions. That's for me. Because we can't continue with the way we do our election petitions. Beyond elections, it is also affecting other parts of our judicial systems and our criminal justice system. There's no high courts. At the high courts, at the federal high court alone, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of pending cases, criminal, civil cases. And because election cases take precedent, you find that there are other cases that have been abandoned for election cases. So I was at an event last week where one of the reviewers of it was a report on election dispute resolution that was being presented. A person said that a judge finished from election tribunal duties, retired. It means all the thousands of cases that she has to hear will have to be given to other judges, and they will start afresh. So you have thousands of litigants. Some of them are criminal cases. They are in jail. They've been in jail for months and months. 180 days. That's 6 months. So imagine being in jail awaiting trial for months. And then your judge comes back and then it's time for retirement and they retire and they go. And then it will take some time again before they farm out your case to other judges. And the justice of it is that new judge, will have to hear your case afresh. Do you see how time keeps going? Then tomorrow you hear that somebody spent 10 years in prison awaiting trial. Is that fair? Do we sacrifice our whole justice system for the sake of elections? And the truth is, the politicians don't care. But we should, because elections are not the only part of our, existence as a country. Yes, they are important, but we can't abandon other parts of our, national and subnational lives, for elections. So these are some of the things as leaders, as citizens, as future leaders, as what can we do, So we need to keep, keep thinking and bringing solutions to these issues. Oh, well, that's the end of my class. So if you have questions, please let me hear them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. That was very interesting. I learned a lot from this class. And I believe we have questions to ask. If you have any question, you need to just clear off your mind from it now. So you can raise up your hands or put your questions in the chat box. And we'll attend to it right now.
Oh yes. I'll send Wumi the notes, so she'll get it across to you people. I'll do that now. Hello?
Yes, Ma.
So
Okay,
any
thank you very much.
question? Thank you. Thank you so much. So any questions, or if you are good? I should go back to my sleep. Oh, okay. No one is asking questions.
Okay, Justin, I've asked you to unmute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Good evening, and thank you, facilitator, for an informative and insightful lecture. Yes, it is true that collations are, in fact, by my own assessment, the most important aspect of the whole elections, especially with regards to Nigeria. Now, I don't know whether I would say you were making excuses for the judiciary when you say that a lot of us were picking on them and all that. But my question is on the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 as amended on the transmission of results. You know, if you look at section 64 4A of the Electoral Act, which makes it mandatory.
Where's my Electoral Act? Please, it says what?
It makes it mandatory for the presiding officer at the polling unit to transmit result of the election in a prescribed format.
Please, I need you to read that section. Where's my Electoral Act? Section what?
Section 64 4A.
Section 64.
4A.
Okay.
Yes.
In a bit.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Now, it empowers the presiding officer at the polling unit when they have tabulated the result to transmit it in an electronic format.
No, it doesn't.
What does it mandate a presiding officer to do? That section 64
Section
4A.
64 4A says number of accredited voters stated on the collated results are correct. Okay, let me start from the 4. 64 4A, collation officer or returning officer at an election shall collate and announce the result of an election, subject to his or her verification and confirmation that the number of accredited voters stated on the collated results are correct and consistent with the number of accredited voters recorded and transmitted directly from polling units. It says nothing about electronic transmission. In fact, the whole, correct the impression that the Electoral Act doesn't say you must transmit electronically. I can't remember this section. It says INEC should decide the type of transmission to be done, just like, the type of voting that should be done. It doesn't say electronically.
Yes. Just hold on, ma. When you read this provision,
yes,
at the end of it, you read where the PO is to transmit the result. How is the result transmitted? Is it manually?
Yes, manually, yes. I said it in this class. I said it is done manually. Transmission is manually.
Okay, what I understood was with the amendment of the Electoral Act 2022, there are 2 methods of transmitting the result. Both I'm just trying to explain what I understood prior to this period. That this provision mandates that results should be uploaded electronically, and while manually the papers are all collected, packed from the polling unit to the ward collation officer, who collects from there and then sent to the local government. If it's in a national election, it continues like that up to the national level. For the Electoral Act to mention that in the 2023, INEC can determine how they would transmit the result. And, the INEC chairman, all the while, I'm talking with experience from the field now. If you listen to the INEC chairman, there was a promise that it is even captured in the Electoral Act that results were going to be transmitted electronically. At least there's evidence to that. And then when you read this provision, and it's talking about a collation officer, collecting after the counting and everything, all confirming, and then transmitting the result. Where are we getting it wrong in this country? Is it the interpretation or it is the INEC? Thank you.
Okay. Your first question about me making excuses for the judiciary. No, I'm not making excuses for the judiciary. At one point in my life, the only reason why I read law was because I wanted to be a judge. But honestly, at this point, I think I'm too ashamed to even want to be a judge because of all the things happening. I also want to wait how things are. You need to understand how things are so you can fix it, and then you can have some conversations. So if we have all these issues with the justice system, can you honestly want the same judges to come and sit on election petitions? No, I don't.
Personally, I want all of them out of the whole system.
So, but you need to fix the system to be able
Yes,
to do that. So that's basically my point. No, I am not making excuses for just judges. I am not making excuses for INEC. I'm not making excuses for anyone. And then coming to transmission of results. See,
yes,
the thing is, you need to understand one thing about laws that the National Assembly makes. First of all, nobody will make laws that will affect them. And that's one of the problems that we've always had.
Yeah.
The crop of people will send to the National Assembly. They are smart now. So when you say results must be transmitted electronically, you remember the problem that all these transmission of results had.
Yes.
The first draft to that bill said results should be transmitted electronically. Then it was removed. Then it was removed completely. So because of all the uproar and everything, everybody said, no, you cannot remove transmission of results electronically. Then the compromise now was, okay, INEC will decide what they want to do, whether they want to transmit it electronically or whether they want to do it manually. That was it. That was a compromise. So the Electoral Act doesn't say, hey, transmission of results is electronically. It just says, oh, INEC will decide on what they want to do. And of course, if you create an Electoral Act in 2022, and then you say, decide what you want to do, before INEC uses any process, it tests it for years. You cannot sign a new law in February 2022, and you want me to use it in 1 year. It's problematic. So INEC was probably playing it safe when it decided, okay, let's continue with the kind of process we're used to. And maybe for next election, probably they'll start test running a new process of transmission. Who knows? Maybe we have a lot of governorship elections going forward, before the 2027 election.
Sorry, man. Let me observe you. Excuse me, man. Let me observe you. If you follow the elections, if you were on the INEC server during the 2023 election, they actually uploaded results. At least I was able to see some of
IREV is just a credibility package, basically to say, oh, these are the results from the polling units. Look at it yourself too.
Yes.
It doesn't have any legal whatever. And from what the court says, the court no rates them too. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it is, INEC, that IREV started as, okay, let's improve the credibility of elections. Let's bring people along. Let's carry everybody along. Okay, fine. When you go to this and you finish election, please snap it and upload it to IREV so that everybody too can see it.
Yes.
That's basically what IREV is. That's basically what it is. So yes, going forward, INEC needs to. I'm a huge fan of technology. We need to find an appropriate technology to use, because if we find something again that is confusing, we'll come back to this same conversation in 4 years.
I pray God help us out of this, because these guys have really made a mess of everybody in this country, especially the 2023 elections. Well, my happiness is, as we are learning every day, we will keep trying to put pressure on them to see, especially the judiciary. We'll keep putting pressure on them to see how they can do better. Because, like in some of the class we had yesterday, which was about the fourth estate of the realm, information has to be accurate from what I understand there. And then before now, we've been told that you must hold public officials accountable in order that the country will be good. How do you hold people accountable when you even try the one that you can confirm you are there, physically present, live. And then people will turn them upside down. When you try to talk, they will tell you, okay, the Lord this, the that. We are really in a serious mess. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Mm.
Okay, somebody said, sorry, let me quickly read. Somebody said that I mentioned one EMB. I also mentioned that there are state independent electoral commissions. So all the 36 states have their own independent electoral commissions. They are EMBs too. So Plateau, Kaduna, Zamfara, Abia, Anambra, Lagos, they all have their state. Those are EMBs too, the 36 other EMBs. Thank you. Okay, there's Sunday. Sunday, please, you can unmute.
Okay, good evening, Ma. Thank you very much
Good
for
evening.
that very insightful section.
You're welcome.
So my is more.
Hi, Sunday. Uh-oh. Hi, Sunday. Oh,
Number.
sorry. Okay, can you start again because we lost you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Hello.
now. Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
what I said I was doing a research on the Indian election, 2019 India general election, and
Yeah.
and what I discovered was that which is the largest, in the world, which had over
Yes.
nine
Yeah.
hundred eligible voters, and over
Y-
67% of this number came out to vote that day
You
on the day
see?
of election.
Yeah.
They had their elections for like close to a month. Now, my take
You
is,
get.
can't Nigeria have election in more than in Nigeria we do election in weekend, during the weekend, a particular weekend,
Yes.
maybe on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, latest by Tuesday the result is out, which I think is not a sufficient time to decide
Does it make
the
sense? Yeah. Sorry, Sunday. Since you're breaking, I am also of the view that we should conduct elections as stagger it, break it into pieces. Yeah. Because we are behaving as if we are such an advanced country. I mean, even advanced democracies have voting that they start through post weeks before, yeah, so that people can vote. So personally, yeah, why I will not put my vote in NIPOST to send to INEC, I think it would be nice if elections are, staggered so that as many people are given opportunity to vote. I think that would be a good one because India, I mean, 900 million people registered. I mean, how many 100 million people? It's so impressive. And they do their elections and I've not heard a problem. I've not heard, a big problem with Indian elections. They do it and they do it well. That's what suits them. That's what suits their population, realities. So I think beyond everything, Nigeria also needs to start becoming realistic about our elections. I think that's one of we are so unrealistic. We think, oh, okay, come out one Saturday and vote, and then we are done. And yeah, but it will not work going forward. Yeah. So when we are talking about electoral reforms, this should be some of the things that we are reforming. Thank you so much, people. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you. Okay, somebody has a question. Oh, okay. Toila Mercy Tedo. Okay. Honestly, I have so many multiple solutions to this problem. And like I mentioned one of it being ADR. No, I think I mentioned two. One is ADR, you know, make ADR a part of election dispute. In fact, I'm doing a paper at the moment on that. Hopefully when it's out, it will be published. So maybe you follow CJID's Twitter pages and wait for my paper when it comes out. Then also um I'm thinking we could also explore like other. I know that Senegal, for example, has constitutional court, that hears issues that pertain to elections. So maybe we should explore that. When we are talking about electoral offenses tribunal on and all that, why don't we make it electoral tribunals or something like that, so that they can hear beyond election offenses. They can also be the ones to handle all those cases that emanate from election petitions. At the end of the day, we can make our election, let the Supreme Court be the only one hearing presidential elections. Then every other election should go to those other courts. And then let's decongest this thing. It's even pre-election cases should be sent to those specialized electoral courts, so that we'll leave our other courts to do the work that they need to do for the citizens. Because honestly, it's unfair how the system is. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ma, for answering all our questions. We've learned so much and we've learned a lot. At least we'll put this into practice, even if we have a discussion with someone and they are trying to show you that the system is this, you have an answer to every question. Thank you very much, Ma. So can we
Sorry,
just
there's one question. Richard
okay.
just asked a question. Let me answer the last
Oh,
question.
okay.
Yes, electronic voting could help. And yes, if it is done appropriately with the appropriate technology, it could help make the system and elections fairer. We should explore that. And I'm sure, like I said earlier on, the law came late. You can't introduce a system when you've not practiced it in the, for elections, you need to, a small election, use the new technology before you start spreading it, before you use it at general elections. Because if you carry a technology that you've not tested and you deploy it on election day, you have a problem. So yeah, e-voting could help if we get the appropriate technology for it. Thank you. So guys, let me go back and go and sleep or watch movies. It's Sunday. I've not rested. Thank you so much for having me. Charlie, back to you, please.
Thank you very much, Ma. Okay, can we all tell our facilitator thank you for today's class? Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was good to be here again.
Thank you.
Hope to see you out there.
Yes, Ma. Did you have anything for us? Okay, good night, Ma.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out for today's class. We'll continue next weekend from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the turnout was low, so we need to work on our turnouts. And chairpersons, please inform your party members once it's time for class. Thank you very much and good night, everyone. Bye.